Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to our Natural Health News live show. Good morning. So I had a little technical difficulty with one of my cameras, so I apologize for my delay. I want to welcome each and every one of you to our Natural Health News live show, where we talk about two core elements of health and wellness. First, we're going to talk about the surge news regarding the COVID crisis we're dealing with globally. And then next, we're going to talk a little bit about some studies that have come out specific to additional research regarding a critical hormone that many hospitalized COVID patients are showcasing deficiency in. And then the latter half of our show is going to be talking about how to balance your pH levels and the role pH within your body plays on creating either more inflammation or utilizing things to reduce your inflammation levels by balancing your pH. So we'll dig in more into that. The pH aspect is something that affects all different types of health and wellness challenges. So even if you have no concerns about COVID and want to just enhance your health and wellness, this is going to be a great topic. And for any of you new following us, I hope you will hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the bell, and hit all notifications on Instagram, hit that like and follow button. And I'm going to encourage all of you participating, comment down below, let me know where you're tuning in from this morning. And also, I do want to encourage you to check out some of my links in the description box below. On the replay, many of you can check out up there on Instagram and down below in the description box for YouTube, where I will have a lot of details. I'll share with you some of the study links and things like that. But I definitely want to encourage you to follow my channel and my Instagram page, because I am constantly offering you a whole bunch of new information on the daily so you can stay up to date. And I also posted a link down below for my ear draining protocol. That was a huge hit, that topic yesterday on the show, about ears and the impact of the middle ear and COVID and the inflammation that is caused to the ear itself. So I had a lot of you download those guides. I also want to encourage you to download any of the free guides that I have, and I've posted in the past. I'll make sure there's a link down below for my current COVID checklist. It's kind of a supplementation guide, just kind of overall health and wellness guide. I created that in January before this really blew up. So I'm in the works of tweaking that, adding in what we know, research, even today's research into that mix. So I want to make sure you're on my email list or in my email list so that you get notified when that goes live. It might be even sooner than me posting on a YouTube community video. So at any rate, we're going to talk about this little green tab later on today. So I'll share with you. I've got show and tell today. But welcome to all of you. I see a lot of familiar faces, and I'm so excited. I got a wonderful text or a wonderful DM on Instagram from Kay Jefferson. She tested negative. Woo woo. So we have to celebrate when our community members are going through the angst of COVID when they have positive news. So I do want to kick off today's video with that. Also, I want to kick off with some positive news. I'm trying to find rainbows where they exist, to keep us focused on the fact that this is temporary. It's maybe a longer term haul, but we will get over this. And there will be days where we don't have to wear masks and we don't have to social distance, and we can go back to somewhat of an after COVID normal, a new normal, if you will. So the good news is the core states that were in expansive growth, California, Texas, and Florida, have started to show a little inkling of decreasing. Now, they are not on the dip like Florida. Florida kind of went down and then they had a really bad day yesterday. But some of that might be because of batch testing, where we know they're testing, and these testing companies are not testing quickly or returning the labs. And so there are some delays with that. So it's not the most accurate picture of the current situation, but it does indicate that some of the mask ordinances and the more kind of localized awareness to being socially distanced, and also companies requiring mask wearing, it is starting to lower the spread. So that is very good news. We have to celebrate the good. The US, we're at 4.3 million cases. Yesterday was the first day since the 12th of June that we saw our daily cases fall a little bit. So there was kind of a steady incline, like the worst, and we've added more and more. I mean, we still posted 60,000 cases, over 60,000 yesterday, but it fell by 1.6%. So we'll take the 1% and be like, woo woo, we have a win in terms of just potentially some decrease. So I'm trying to be positive for you, friends. Getting lots of anxious emails and messages from a lot of you, and I want to try and spread some happiness. Okay, so California, they had 68,000, almost 69,000 cases yesterday, and they did have 29 fatalities. Florida, as I'd communicated, they had a little bit of a decline yesterday. I have to take that back. I meant to say Texas. Texas had an increase, but Florida had 88, almost 8,900 cases. The news with Florida, they're in the second spot here, so it's California, Florida, New York. It has become more evident that the children in Florida are being tested more. So we're seeing an increase from the 16th to the 24th of July. More children have been tested for COVID, partially because of some of the exposure at daycares, summer camps, and things like that. So there were 28,170 children, 18 and under, minors, who had tested for COVID. We had that increase to 31,500 that were tested. And these children, the minors, the only thing that we have to look at right now is that hospitalizations have increased. And we know hospitalizations usually lag 2 weeks behind testing. And so what we've seen is a 23% increase in children, 18 and under, minors that have been hospitalized. And those numbers, it's 246 moving up to 303. So I just want to put that out there that children do carry some, they do get infected, they do catch COVID. And in some cases, if they have underlying health conditions, and even those who don't, it impacts their body. And today, I really want to dig into the research. There's more research out. And I think it's really critical for any parents. There are some things that you can add to your child's supplement regimen on a daily basis to really increase potentially the risk of them being hospitalized. We have some good data out on potentially a way to minimize your hospitalization risk. So I'm putting that out there. I'm drinking keto coffee again this morning. So we're having tough mornings here. Okay, so things to note, I want to highlight. One, I am still digging into why New York had such a big fatality reporting yesterday. I haven't found out why, but I'm on it. But Texas, they did have an increase yesterday. So they had gone down a little bit and they increased. And they had over 10,000 cases, positive tests come back, new tests. And the fatalities are what is most alarming in Texas. They had 828 people die yesterday from COVID. That is the largest day to date in the state. Arizona is something I want to highlight. So I brought my printout here, and we're right here. It is hard to see, friends. Let me see if I can get this a little closer for you. So it's hard to see right here, but Arizona is actually decreased. They have had a 13% decrease. So, we'll take it. 13% decrease in the positive tests. And the good news is that trickles down the ripple effect. 2 weeks will be where we start to see the decrease of the burden on the healthcare system. So, and I see we've got a troller on. One of the things that I want to communicate in my channel and in any of my communication, I don't support inadequate misinformation. We are focused on data, science, scientific research. I might be a naturopath, but I have studied natural medicine. I've studied herbology and a whole assortment of other science-backed areas of both research and medicine. And so if you are looking for conspiracy theories, just sign off. I'm not your channel and I'm not your influencer, if you will. So just know that for folks that come on and want to claim fake news and all this BS, you're not going to find any support here. Okay, so I do actually, thank you for bringing that up. I actually want to highlight that there was some craziness happening on the social web last night. Some folks, very random individuals, it still leaves me breathless. There are people who, want to tout misinformation. And, there's a big misinformation campaign or campaigns happening from other countries here in the US. It's part of targeting us as a country. And we have people who are very susceptible to that. And you have to be cognizant of the information that you read. You have to be aware of the data that people are using. And where they're getting their research and resources. And last night there was some video of clinicians, people wearing white lab coats, on the steps of some federal building, I presume. I don't even know. But they're highlighting their claim. They're making all these false claims. They're talking about medication that's been proven ill, effective, and actually harmful for COVID patients and even non-COVID patients. They're anti-maskers or COVID deniers. They got a little cred, or not credibility, but they got a little leverage in views, and then they were shut down appropriately. I do want to make a note, the highest leader in our land actually tweeted out a whole bunch of their misinformation, and Twitter shut it down. So I'm grateful, while censorship is what it is, and in the world of Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, I just have to highlight this because I've been subject to it with some topics. Some topics you just can't go into, even though you might have data and information to back it up. YouTube particularly, there's liability, and there are lawsuits that have occurred where, we don't have necessarily First Amendment rights in the world of YouTube. Facebook is a little bit more lenient. Twitter is starting to lock things down. But the reality is that we use this platform. It's a private business. It's not like me going out to a public center and start spewing, all of my information. That would be First Amendment. But when we use these tools and work with companies that have servers and allow us a platform, we do have to adhere to their company-based guidelines. And so that is where the censorship occurs. But also, these companies have ownership and an onus to make sure that proper, healthy, correct information is getting out there. Now, there's opinion-based, but then there's misinformation, factually unsound, proven wrong information. And that's what happened. A whole bunch of people got, and I don't know if it was a live show or not. I remember seeing a few messages, but, in the evening, I kind of I disconnect from social. And it's disturbing because we have people who are very susceptible to this information, and they're going to say, well, so-and-so said it. And a lot of these people are like, who are they? So at any rate, I want to put that out there. You might see some residual impact of it. But just know the statistics show masks are helpful. And we are seeing a reduction as these cities and mayors have employed mask wearing ordinances. We're seeing the dips, and that's the effectiveness. We also have aerodynamic and fluid dynamic studies and special views of air particles. We know this. We have science. And so the more science pushes against this, the more these conspiracy theorists get freaked out. And so, it is what it is, but we just have to be aware of it. I will say a hotspot we need to be aware of, and I know a lot of you watch me from YouTube, or watch me in Arizona. I got a little off track there. I'm sorry. That you guys watch me in Arizona. There's an Arizona county, Hot Spring County, that had an increase of 200%, a total increase across the board. There is a little epicenter in one of their prisons there. They have 800 cases in a prison. 100 of these prisoners have been hospitalized with COVID, and they've had 23 fatalities as of last night. But that is an indication of potentially where things start spilling out from a, localized jail or community like a nursing home, and then we see it spread out. So sometimes it comes in from the outside and then it continues to spread. The other note that I wanted to, I didn't get a chance to dig into the kids in Florida. I want to go back to that. One of the things that I have a lot of teacher friends, some of my college and high school friends, undergrad friends, they are very concerned. Teaching is in person. There's no option at this point for virtual for some of these counties. The positive test percentage for children in some of the counties, like Martin County, it's 25.3%. So of all the kids who've gotten tested, 1 out of 4 has COVID. And in Miami-Dade, it's 19.6%. That's 1 out of 5 kids who gets tested. Those counties, as well as other counties, are going full steam ahead with both, schools for minors, as well as universities. University of Miami is still not budging from taking classes virtual. So just FYI, we're going to see maybe some more things heat up there. Okay. All right. So I do want to make a note of some new research. And this is really fascinating. This might yield more research, but there is an epidemiologist who was studying and doing her work on the mainland in Italy, and had visited her mom on a small little island just off the coast of Tuscany. And this little island is called, let's see, Giglio, I think is the name of it. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't pronounce Italian very well. But this little Italian island, she was quarantined as well as all the other individuals on the island when COVID hit Italy. And they had 3 cases of instances where people had been exposed, traveling with like a foreigner who was coming to the island to visit, or to go to a funeral. So a funeral was kind of the main impetus. But what they found, they had to have one doctor. So there's a doctor that's had 40 years of doctoring experience on the island. One doctor on the island, and this epidemiologist, and a whole bunch of these individuals that live on the island. And come to find out, the 3 people that had tested positive quarantined, and nobody on the island, like they tested almost the whole entire island, voluntarily tested. Nobody else were affected by COVID. And so there's this study happening right now by this epidemiologist on the island where her mother is from. And they're trying to find out, is there some sort of genetic element? But what they've identified is that nobody, there are people who did have some exposure. There were the funeral, there was hugging and a whole bunch of social closeness, and nobody on the island got infected. So that is really kind of intriguing. We might hear cases like that in other parts of the world, but they are going to look at doing some sort of genetic oriented testing to see if there's maybe some sort of element or even testing of nutrients and things like that. So that has definitely posed a big question in the Italian health ministry world to see what has made this island different than other areas, northern Italy, that were hit so hard. Now, there's another big research article that came out of the Netherlands, and it focuses on COVID and the susceptibility because of air pollution. And they specifically target the Netherlands. And well, we were actually supposed to be in the Netherlands this year. We had a whole plan. I was going to be doing my studies in Germany this summer. And it's like a fellowship at a college. And then Brian and Gabriel would join me. And I think the Netherlands were on one of our charts around Europe. So I can't say personally what it's like, but supposedly there's some areas that have a little bit more air pollution. What they identified is that the air pollution increases the hospitalization rate. So if you live in an area where there's higher air pollution, i.e. urban areas, right? 10% greater or higher instances of hospitalizations, and death fatalities rises by 15%. And this is really fascinating. I actually went and researched the most polluted areas of the US, and this is based on the American Lung Association. They have an annual State of the Air report. And so I think it kind of matches up with where we've seen some areas or pockets of major spread. The worst, most particle, like worst year round, some might be high at certain allergen times, but this is like all the time. Worst year round. And it's categorized as a particular, a particle size of pollution. But the worst in America is Bakersfield, California. Then Fresno, Madera, and Hanford, California. And I have to tell you, the top 5 are in California. So this could very well be factoring into California's numbers. So we have Bakersfield, number 1, the Tri-City, Fresno, Madera, Hanford. Visalia, California. Number 4 is LA and Long Beach. And then number 5 is San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland. So the San Francisco Bay Area. Number 6, this is quite surprising. 6 is Fairbanks, Alaska. And number 7 is Phoenix Mesa, Arizona. So I thought that was really kind of interesting that some of those top polluted areas match up with where we're seeing some of those concentrated cases of higher hospitalizations as well as fatalities. So what this study, the Netherlands study on air pollution, assessed is that the pollutants in the air, it obviously decreases your lung function. It actually causes lung inflammation. It creates susceptibility. And that's where COVID has the opportunistic type of situation where you already have lungs that are depressed and inflamed from air pollution. So I do want to talk about what can you do about that. In my videos here, especially during COVID, I've talked about cleaner air, the HEPA air filtration, the UV air filtration that we use here in our home. When and if at some point in the future I go back into the clinical setting, I will be taking one of those with me, the UV lights that are in the whole sanitation air cleansing. But that is really critical when you think about if you live in any of these areas and maybe you don't have any lung challenges, but maybe you do. Maybe you've had breast cancer and you have radiated breast tissue and the lungs also are radiated with that. Then you need to look at making sure you have the cleanest air where you spend your most time, in your home and in your homes, your cars, as well as your offices. And in the office space, we don't have a lot to control the HVACs, but you control the area around you. And that's where extra filtration can be beneficial. The other thing I do want to highlight is using salt lamps are great. Salt lamps are really powerful. And then also making sure that you yourself, you carry your little Himalayan pink salt inhaler. It's so great. I love this stuff. So I think I have a link down below. If not, I'll make sure I have it. But you can carry these in your purses and your pockets and making sure you're using saline spray to flush out and get rid of the inflammation. So that is something that is really, I wanted to highlight that because today I feel like we have a lot of information clinically with some of the research that is out new. This is all new. That is communicating definitely some ways for us to be preventive, proactive instead of reactive. So cleaning up your air at home is going to be something to really think about. The other thing too is you might want to look at, do you need to add maybe something to the outside of your AC? If you're in an apartment or condo, you might not always have full capacity to do that, but you can run plug-in filters that have a much greater impact on your air quality. And I'll be honest with you, they are a little bit of an investment, but in the long run, I mean, I can tell a big difference. And we are undergoing kind of home remodel. We have like 4 or 5 phases to this. It's all because of the flood from our kitchen, but we've got a whole bunch of stuff. We moved our remodeling upstairs as we're going to end up turning our master closet into a master laundry room. So we're moving the laundry room upstairs and we've got a whole bunch of stuff, and dust particles are definitely a factor. And I've noticed a big difference as we run those all the time. The UV particularly, it clears that out. So just know that if you are in a highly polluted community, it does put you at risk. And this also is for my fitness enthusiasts who we're working out outside. You might be walking your dogs. Just know that even healthy exercises healthy exercising outside puts you at a susceptible risk level because of the pollutants. I do also want to highlight just some news. Google has extended their staying home, working from home all the way to July of next year. And that's a really big corporate sign that this virus is here to stay. And we might see others follow suit. I do want to let you know, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple, they have had a stay-at-home, work from home in place up through January 2021. There's been communication that they may actually see those follow and extend out. So that's just an indication. Okay, so now let's talk about the big study that came out. It's an Israeli study that is, and my printer, I'm having some weird Wi-Fi connections. Like I got it all fixed, and then it ran out of paper, and then I put paper in, and then it ran out of ink. So we're like, I think it's probably sitting down on my printer right now. But I do want to highlight there's a Lemit Healthcare study. This is done by an Israeli hospital. And what they looked at was it's the most substantial to date vitamin D study. And it looks at a study of vitamin D levels in the COVID patients and analyzes their levels based on age, gender, and also the severity of COVID. And what they've identified is through all ages and both genders, if individuals have low vitamin D levels, and low, the category is 30 and below, but the reality is you need to be a lot higher than that. But 30 is the threshold. Low vitamin D was a factor, a number one factor, risk factor for your hospitalization for COVID. And this is, I have a whole entire video, a live show where I talked about vitamin D. So I won't dig into that. You guys can go in my playlist and watch that, and just fast forward like 25 minutes, and you'll get to the bulk of that discussion. But vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a steroid. It is a precursory chemical needed by every cell in our body to interact, engage, be lively, youthful, and have cellular detoxification, as well as it invigorates the cells of every cell in our body. We have over a billion cells in our body. We need vitamin D everywhere throughout our body. And vitamin D is also an underlying precursory hormone that is a building block to male hormones. It's a building block to our immune system. So our immune response relies on optimal vitamin D. When we have a deficiency of vitamin D, we have a delayed, a slowed, a restricted immune response. And that is one of the things that they've pulled together in this video, is that the immune response of the patients who are hospitalized, they're showcasing a weaker immune response to COVID. And they've hypothesized that a big part of that is vitamin D levels. And so I do want to highlight that. I actually, I don't think I have it on this video, but I do have a free download that gives you based on your vitamin D levels, some recommendations to supplementation, because right now the recommendation is anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams. And to be honest with you, I have some of my patients I work with on 20, 30, 40,000. I take 50,000 because my levels were like 33 when I tested them last. And so optimally, you want to be at a very, very much higher level. You want to be almost 3 times 30. You want to be 85 to about 105, 110, depending on the person. Depending, like breastfeeding moms, we need a whole lot more. Sometimes need a little bit more D as they're transitioning out of perimenopause and into menopause, and then menopause into postmenopause. So there's all sorts of variances that get critical and distinct based on your age group and what's going on health-wise. But I do want to highlight, there are a ton of other studies that link vitamin D to autoimmunity. It links D to infertility. It links it to premature birth. I mean, there's just a lot of data. And so this specifically looked at COVID hospitalization rates. Is pretty substantial. I'll make sure I do some screen grabs and I'll post that on Instagram stories for you all. But it's pretty amazing. Okay, so I actually wanted to really dig into today. Let me just make a note of my timestamp so I can communicate this. Let's see, 29:46. Okay. So today I really wanted to dig into your pH levels and the role pH plays in the degree of inflammation and weakened immune system within your body or immune response. And many folks have no sense of what their pH levels are. It's not something that's common for us to routinely assess. And even when you go for your well person visit, it's very rare that they're running your pH. They might look at, a urinalysis, but they might not be running full pH with the idea of assessing, are you acidic? Are you too acidic? Are you having an inflammatory related response systemically? Or are you dealing with maybe not enough nutrients and you're a little bit more on the base side? I will say that I don't have the exact percentages, but I'd say probably 98, 99% of my patients that I work with that we do specific pH testing, they run acidic. And some of that is short-term related to food, dietary related things, but then there's longer-term systemic related acidic pH. The pH balance in the body has to be optimized. And I will say, there was in the last 10 years, there's a big push to drink pH balanced water, and I'm all for that. But one of the things that we need to recognize is that pH or non-pH balanced water has no bearing in terms of the impact of the pH levels needed by the stomach. And a lot of times the stomach, as we get older, at 30, things start to decline in terms of our stomach acid levels. The lack of stomach acid has nothing to do with your pH levels, but it can cause inflammation, which can cause autoimmunity, digestive health challenges, systemic inflammation, and then that can sometimes in some organs or glands offset your pH. So I just want to make that clear. Like if you have repetitive bacterial infections or yeast infections throughout the body, the pH might be a little off, and it might be from systemic related gut imbalances. And we can derive that to, we need to clear up the stomach acid, add in enzymes and things like that. So just want to make that clarification that, drinking pH water, while it's great, it tastes fantastic, a lot of times it's been enhanced with minerals and electrolytes, that is not the end all be all and is not the overall way of resolving pH levels. So I want to make that clear. I'm not against any of those things, but we need to go a lot deeper through multiple stages and steps of both digestion and system-wide enzymatic reactions. And one of the things that we look at that are core factors for pH imbalances, stress, number one. Stress is the root of all evil. And when I say stress causes inflammation, stress will create imbalances in your pH level. So stress can create these pH imbalances. That's one thing. The second thing are mineral deficiencies, certain minerals. And when we do when I test micronutrients, we do mineral related profiles. There's balances and equilibrium that's needed between our sodium levels, our potassium levels, and, all the different elements, magnesium and other elements have to be balanced. And a lot of times when they're imbalanced or we have a deficiency of, say, magnesium or potassium, that can offset our pH levels. And so I want to kind of take you into a deeper journey in terms of what all is necessary to achieve optimal balance. I will say diet is a big factor. I mean, that is a really, really core element where, while I have my keto coffee, this is like the only thing that I have in the day that's on the acidic scale. But you have to be cognizant of, one, how our body responds to food. So the blood typing diet tends to be good for pH within your body specific chemistry. But we also want to look at making sure plant-based is as plentiful as you can get. Herbs and mineral dense nuts and seeds are very helpful at maintaining optimal pH levels. And I will say there are a lot of studies that assess and look at cancer cells. Cancer loves an acidic body. And cancer cells flourish in that environment. And when we have an acidic oriented body, we also have an immune system that's not at its optimum levels. And so the immune system is not as efficient as it needs to be or can be because of the acidity of the body. And I will tell you, you can test your pH by grabbing urine pH test strips. You can do a quick little collection, and you can identify on a scale of where you're at. There's certain levels where you expect a little bit more of an acidic environment in the morning, like the first void, your first urination in the morning is going to be a detoxing urination because it's been a few hours since the void before bedtime, or maybe even in the middle of the night. So I just want to highlight that for all of you. Most importantly, what I love to add into all of my patients' diets, especially those who might be dealing with cancer and some other underlying major inflammatory disorders, chronic inflammation, autoimmunity, and generally are just puffy and swollen and feel not well. pH is one of those things we can start to evaluate. If we even tick up somebody, move them from being less acidic, and sometimes it's 0.5, sometimes it's a full point, depending on how intense they are, we actually can see changes in how their body's responding. And I cannot find it, but I have a chart that I use in the clinic where I will show folks on the pH scale as depending on where you're at, as your body is either more acidic or more base. Most of the time it's more acidic. You start to see decreases and deficiencies of certain core minerals like iodine. Iodine is one of the first minerals to leave when we're more acidic. And that puts people in a predominant state of thyroid dysfunction. It puts people, men and women, in a state where you have more fibrotic tissue, their breast tissue changes, and we can articulate the lack of iodine isn't always about you're eating iodine and you're doing all these things, you're supplementing, but there's something going on that's keeping your acidity higher than where it needs to be, and your body's leaching iodine. So that gets really, really intricate in terms of balancing the pH, because as you go out, it's by a half a point. And it's literally the scale is half a point. We have a little chart that identifies what nutrients you start seeing depletions on. So Linda actually makes a good question. And by the way, Futuristic, thank you for the $3 live super chat. I'm grateful. Thank you. I appreciate you. I love the little emoji. So Linda says, so it's better to test after the first morning time. Yes. So we say test after the first void. So your second urination of the morning is the best time to test. And also, too, depending on what you're eating, you can even see, and this gets really intricate. I will use pH for some of my food allergies. We'll start to identify, okay, what foods might be spiking or increasing your acidity, or the pH levels within your body. And that then has a role to play in terms of gut healing and soft tissue healing. So Car69Z, I actually will post some links. So if you want to wait after the show, I'll have on Instagram TV. So over on Instagram, I'll post, you just swipe up above, and I'll also post on my Instagram feed. So super easy. Hey, Shay. Oh, we love Shay. Okay. So yeah, so pH and inflammation, they go hand in hand, and pH levels and acidity also lead to leached minerals that also depress and limit and minimize your immune function. So in the world of COVID, and for all of you trying to prevent it from taking effect in your body, or might be waiting on tests, I know a lot of you have been tested recently, it becomes really critical to then do everything you can to keep your pH as optimized as you want. So I want to share with you what I love. I love micronutrients because these tend to be my easiest and fastest way to get pH balanced. I use a little tablet. It's this little green tablet, and you don't have to dissolve this in water. You just literally throw it down the hatch. But spirulina and chlorella are my two favorite food-based, plant-based pH balancers. And spirulina is really dense in a whole bunch of protein, as well as really good phytonutrients, a lot of minerals. Chlorella is just superb in terms of its pure potency of pH balancing. And in like this literally, I want to say this is like, I think there are 700 tabs in here. I take 6 or 7 a day. And they're really great. Like for folks who might be doing detox programs and you might be doing enema therapies, you can do this about 20 minutes before an enema. And it really enhances the balancing, like the literal detoxification and lowering of pH via the bile ducts of the liver. So there's a lot that you can do with the spirulina and chlorella. And I get this. I'll do all my links afterwards for all of you. But these are really, oh my gosh, they're so fantastic. And it's literally pure spirulina, pure chlorella. That's it. There's nothing else. It's condensed into this little, almost like freeze-dried tab. But I want to read to you what all is in this. You have some protein. You have chlorophyll, like 55 milligrams of chlorophyll. That is pure plant goodness. It's green gold. It is so good. Beta carotene, you have sodium, potassium, iron. So for a lot of you who have commented you're a little on the anemic side, that can be very, very beneficial because plant-based iron is a lot easier for you to absorb. It also comes with other nutrients to maintain balance. It has zinc, calcium, vitamin A, plant-based vitamin A, friends, not the synthetic, adulterated. It's a 43% vitamin A. Oh, so good. Vitamin B6, B1, vitamin E. It has folic acid, magnesium, and biotin. So for a lot of folks who are dealing with stress, who are having hair loss, who have autoimmunity, who are dealing with anemia, they might be dealing with headaches, migraines, deficiencies in nutrients, particularly magnesium and iron. And even though it's not in here, iodine can be greatly balanced by balancing your pH. And so I love to use green juices. And these tabs, there's some equivalent, like one, the total size on this, it's 6 of them in a day. I mean, you don't have to do 6 all together. You can do 2, 3 times a day if you want to do that. One of the things that we also will use these for is I will evaluate bowel transit time. So this is a darker green. I also can evaluate how well your body is digesting food. So there's a lot that kind of plays into these tabs and the utilization health-wise. But spirulina and chlorella together make this amazing power punch of pH balancing. They are very, very, very clean nutrients that will not skew your pH on the negative side. In fact, it brings it to a closer balance to where we want to see. Do you just take those with an additional B supplement? So I actually yesterday, Linda, I kind of missed yesterday, I talked about B vitamins, and B vitamins become critical. I'd say watch that video a little bit. I think it's like at 32 or 33 where I go into those specifically, but B vitamins are something you want to deliver throughout the day, especially when we are stressed out. And so that becomes critical. But because we're talking about pH, one of the things that we also need to assess. So yesterday I talked about your nerves and the nerve sheath get damaged when we have deficiencies in B. One of the things that's damaging the nerve sheaths are higher levels of free radicals. So free radical damage also will increase the inflammation levels. Free radicals also will increase our pH levels. So one of the things that we see with chlorella and spirulina is you have a really rich antioxidant that goes in, and this is like the whole chemistry thing, but you have like these little single cells that are bad cells, and they're like just going through the blood, they're burning the sides of your vessels, and that's why we have to have cholesterol. So if you have high cholesterol, it's indicative of these high free radicals. So there's a whole bunch that kind of at play there. But these like free radicals, there's a Pac-Man, and the chlorella spirulina functions like a Pac-Man, and it starts eating up all these single damaging cells. Sometimes these cells will attach onto other cells. Sometimes they'll cause congestion, fibrins in the body. But at the end of the day, the Pac-Man is eating all these free radicals, minimizing the degree of inflammation necessary for the body to repair. And so it all on its own, balancing your pH can lower your cholesterol levels. Like that's one of these things where you're not going to hear that at your clinician's office, that taking some green tabs will lower your cholesterol levels. And they have nothing to do with your traditional cholesterol lowering kind of aspects. There's no, fat in them in terms of, omegas, but what you get is a very pH balancing delivery. You get micronutrients, you get minerals, and then you get that Pac-Man really reducing the inflammation. And at the end of the day, if you are somebody who just wants optimal health, it's not a bad idea to add this into your daily diet. The other thing too is for folks that have, major swelling, inflammation, they wake up puffy, folks that have gout, kidney stones. Oh my gosh, and I'm sure there's a deeper connection, but I'm hearing a lot of folks dealing with kidney stones that are at home, and there's a stress aspect. It might be, the change of the environment, what they're eating and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can balance out a lot of the harmful, overwhelmed nutrients that are going to wrong places, like calcium being articulated in our bone or in our kidneys. It becomes critical that we balance and give our body clean nutrients. So anybody who's vegan, vegetarian, spirulina chlorella, this is part of your go-to. Like spirulina is your core protein source because it's so sufficient in its amino acids that it breaks down the protein properly. And this is where plant-based tends to be easier on the body to digest. Your body's working less, not as hard. It's more efficient in the digestion. You're spending less energy digesting food, but you're also breaking down that food because it's in a clean, whole form, plant-based form. You have the enzymes and you also have the amino acids breaking down and allowing the body to articulate the iodine and the vitamin A and the vitamin E and the vitamin Bs. And so it is so fantastic. So today I really wanted to dig into what you can do at home to also add to your regimen in terms of improving your immune response. So I hope today there's really 3 takeaways. Clean up your air, make sure that you're cleaning filters, change the air filters and get more HEPA related, the ones that go in the ceiling. We have this weird central system, so I don't have ones that I have to replace anymore. But, I'm not replacing those, but we do have our individual units. And I have about 4 of them, and we move them throughout the house. So we have our dogs, so 3 rescue pups. They're bigger breeds. And so we have a lot of fur and dander. And so those are always running downstairs, and we're clearing those out. And then with the construction, we've moved those up. But you can have them in a room. So if you have a lot of allergies in the spring and fall, or even if you're dealing with summer-related allergies, you can clean your air at night. You can do all the things to clear your passageways, and that works together to help reducing your inflammation. So that respiratorily will help improve your health. The second thing that you should definitely be doing is reaching for vitamin D3. So I have to clarify, vitamin D3, that deficiency, this is the third, one of the biggest studies to date in COVID and vitamin D. And the deficiencies lead to people being hospitalized. And that's also when things are really kicking up in Italy. They were showing that Northern Italy had a greater outbreak where Southern Italy wasn't so overwhelmed. And the kind of latitude of where that is, what we were seeing is the cases higher up with less light in the winter months had lower D levels. And we see that here. The Mason-Dixon line is kind of the threshold where everybody above generally, I think it's like something like 75 or 80% of folks above the Mason-Dixon line have some degree of vitamin D deficiency by the normal medical standards, not by like functional medicine, but like they're really low. So if you've ever been tested for D and you're in a single digit or low double digits, you need to really, really optimize. And D takes a long time. So there used to be a lot of discussion like, oh, there's D toxicity, but the reality is that it's a steroid that's used by the hormone. And it's not something where you can overwhelm your body overnight. I mean, we now see prescription, 100,000 IUs once a week. So that is that would be considered a toxic level by most standards, and it's not. So I am less concerned about vitamin D toxicity than I am the deficiency. The deficiency it leads to a lot of challenges within the body, and we know this because we have a lot of clinical data. Now we're seeing it in COVID as well. But on the note of vitamin D, it will take sometimes 6 to 9 months, and sometimes more, depending on what's going on in your body. If you have autoimmunity, you have all these underlying health concerns, it's going to take a lot for your body to articulate storage of vitamin D. And so what we test is, how much D is floating through your blood. A lot of it's being utilized or needs to be utilized by your cells. So every cell, I kind of tell people, when you think about like when you take, I like all these visuals. It helps you kind of connect to the power of that supplement. So the visual, if you take your vitamin D, when it starts to get articulated and into the bloodstream, our cells are like piranhas. Like that's just like, gimme. And then you have cells that didn't get it. And so D takes a while to really optimize. And I test all the time. We do blood spot testing. I have test kits are actually all in the little white drawers back there. But we test them, and it's a little blood spot test, like a little pinprick, and we do these little tests. There's these little test papers, and you mail it into the lab. So these are easy at home. If you're curious, I'll make sure I link down below. You can go to visit my website, and there's for test kits. But you can test, and it's important that every 6 to 9, 12 months, you get your vitamin D level tested just to see where you are, especially if you're supplementing. You want to make sure that you're starting to see some optimization. Other points too is you want to take vitamin D away from any other fat soluble vitamins. So take it on its own. I love to take it at night. I think that's the most helpful, and it'll help you sleep. And then with pH, adding in a spirulina, chlorella, tab to your program, not just one, but there's usually 3 or 6 I might be taking. That is a very powerful plant-based, powerful way of balancing your pH level. So testing your pH. So yes, I will link the chlorella spirulina supplement. It's a bag of 720, so it's pretty a lot of tabs, but it's very, very powerful also at helping give your body other nutrients. So a lot of times people that I'm working with trying to balance their pH, they also have other health conditions happening. And one of the things that I find is noteworthy, within 7 to 10 days, they start to see and notice a change. Sometimes it might be they are not waking up as puffy. Maybe the digestion is changing where they're having more than one bowel movement a day. So those are things to expect as you enrich your body. You'll start to see the impact. And just like with the COVID testing, you have tests and then the time the hospitalizations, there's a lag time, and it's not human time, it's body time. And so I always say, give your body grace. Just know that, the body doesn't turn around on human time. It has its own schedule. But every cell in your body will be really greatly enhanced by operating in a world inside your body that's less acidic. The acidity can damage cells. It can create premature aging. It can cause, graying hair. It can cause wrinkles. So there's a lot that we can see visually from premature aging. There's a lot that we can't. And so just trust and know that your body is going to be having the positive effect internally as you begin to see it externally. Okay, so let's see. I see some questions here. It looks like you guys are having a different conversation. Okay, so let's see. Phyllis, you're welcome. Linda Strickland, solid mass line thyroid. I don't know what the question is, but I have thyroid related protocols. If you want to check those out, you can purchase and download those. So I try to maintain my topic points for the day. I do have now over, I think, 130 live shows that you can reference and check out, as well as over 600 videos here in my catalog. So I have a whole assortment of resources. Okay. Let's see. And show notes, I will add. I didn't get a chance to add. It was a little hectic this morning, so I'll make sure I add them. Okay. Let's see. Gosh, somebody's really taken up the chat box. Oh, the hem. Okay, so Tara wants to know, where can you get this? I will post a link to this down below. So definitely, if you like this content, give me a thumbs up, hit the share button. I really appreciate that. And do know I am working on a whole bunch of information for you. I'm working on some video editing. So Sundays there'll be edited videos that release. I know we've gotten a lot of people frustrated with this format. And the live show is not for everybody, and I get that. And so I'm trying to accommodate everybody while also trying to manage mom life, working from home, where, I don't have childcare. And so I have a 4-year-old that needs constant attention. He's an only child, and it's really hard for me to concentrate on even writing things around. So I am one of these people, I need like dedicated focus. I only work well in the morning time. That's like my time. So evenings are just out in terms of me getting stuff done. And I'm not going to push myself to, pump out this content and make myself sick. So that is the one thing. Just know I'm trying to work through this just like all of you. Okay. So Janet, should we be getting our iodine levels checked when we have a physical? Yes. I like when we have physicals to have full assessments of micronutrients and, more than adequate testing of your hormones. That doesn't always take place. And sometimes you have to have a really in-depth conversation with your clinician about what you want. You definitely want to know what you want to have tested. I do think, magnesium, iodine, iron, your vitamin D levels, those are some aspects. And also too, depending on what pharmaceuticals you might be taking, there are going to be deficiencies from those pharmaceuticals. And so the average American is taking anywhere from 6 to 8 pharmaceuticals on a daily basis. So, and that's like 50 and older. That's the average. Sometimes it's more. Like I'll have people come in with, seriously, they'll have these plastic bins and then they've got like Ziploc baggies. And we go through all of that. It's like, well, your poor liver is really doing a lot. So one of the things that you can really, really identify is if you are taking a pharmaceutical, it's best to talk with your pharmacist. That's not my forte, and I don't dispense pharmaceuticals, but, have a chat with your pharmacist to see if there are any kind of common deficiencies that are related to that particular pharmaceutical that you might want to assess. And so pharmacists tend to be a little bit more tuned into that. And they actually go to conferences where they're talking about the drugs and the drug contraindications. And they also have reference tools they can pull up in their computer systems that are great. Do infants need vitamin D? Yes, Joella. Yes, they do. Okay, so okay. All right. I see, I'm seeing some folks. What I'm going to say for any of you on the live chat, if you want to really dispense your own recommendations, please don't do that on my channel. I'm not liable for that, and I don't endorse that. So, you know who you are. That's kind of taken over our live chat this morning. You do it again on my next one, and I'll ban you. So I'm just going to give you a little warning. But I don't appreciate that overwhelm to my community because I can't even see what people are asking at this point. So if you have your own thoughts, create your own channel or blog. Okay, so Instagram, thanks for tuning in, you guys. I appreciate each and every one who come in, tune in back tomorrow. I think today is what, Tuesday? Yesterday was like 2 days altogether. All right, friends, I will see you guys tomorrow. Tune in live at 9. Watch my Instagram stories. I'll have more details on some of the items. As this wraps, I'll post on Instagram TV. Bye, everybody. All right, YouTube, sorry about that. Okay, so let me just save this. Okay, so my regular consumers, please comment down below and let me know if you have any questions. I'm sorry, I just can't, paragraphs in the chat box. It's out of order. You're out of order, taken over. Okay, so thanks, Christine. Okay. So yeah, and I'm a big proponent of plant-based. The studies show more and more benefits to that, and I'm not against eating meat, but I definitely do not think that it is the healthiest throughout the day. And even every day, maybe a few times a week, but you have to also really hone in. And I've highlighted it before, the chemistry of your blood, the blood typing, also really helpful because some people just it's not optimal. And then also diets, I don't like that term. This is a lifestyle, the idea of having a diet to adhere to, it automatically implies a time period. And then what do you do after that time period? So, making things that are just healthy decisions and healthy choices that you do every day, it's part of your routine. It's less oppressive, it's less restrictive, like mentally, but you're making healthy choices. And sometimes it's a shift in attitude where you're thinking, okay, I really want to have X, Y, and Z. I know that is going to affect my body in this way. And so I'm going to reach for this. And, sometimes the first 21, 28 days of habit forming takes a little bit of grace as well with your, choices. But one of the things that is beneficial, you'll start to see the impact and say, okay, I know I feel this way if I consume that. So I don't want to feel that way. And that tends to help you make the longer term choices. But at the end of the day, it's what works well for you, your time, your budget, your body. And everybody's body is different. And so that's kind of the approach that I come from. I will educate as many of my consumers of content here on a lot of the different elements of healthy diets, as along with a lot of the research. But what I really lean away from are the fads. I think the fads set people up for failure at the end when they stop doing that fad diet, and then they see all of the weight or all the inflammation come back and then some, and they get disappointed and then they beat themselves up. That's just a vicious cycle. I don't like that cycle. I actually witnessed my grandma do that. She was a dieter her whole entire life, and the most just oppressive diet she had at one point was the grapefruit diet. And I remember it was like, she'd have her table and she'd have this, it'd be a printout, old school typing printout. And she'd have what she could eat. And she just hated it. And then when she'd get off of it, she just binge. And it just was, she always had challenges with her weight. And I always think, gosh, that's just, she's not loving life and living it. At the end of her life, she lived to 98. And I ended up having the blessing of being able to be her caregiver and help her. And we changed her diet at the end, and she ate a plant clean based diet and lost weight easily, got off of insulin, and just and still she loved to go out for hamburgers and beer. So we would do that. And she loved ice cream. So we'd go and get her ice cream, sugar-free or, fruit-based ice cream. But she had lower inflammation levels and just felt and looked better and exercised and had joint mobility in her 80s. That was pretty amazing. And that was just from diet changes and exercising. So, okay. So definitely, being a consumer of a healthy lifestyle is much more sustainable. It's much more realistic. And it also gets you away from beating yourself up, because it's all about balance. If you want to have a little glass of champagne here and there, it is not the end of the world. But, if you do, make sure you're consuming you're balancing before and after, and you maybe do a little detox and you drink a little bit more dandelion during the day. So there's ways to kind of circumvent that. And I will say, since it is my birthday on Friday, I will probably be running through our little drive-through liquor place and getting one of my favorite things of rosé. Because it's my birthday on Friday, and I'm like so unexcited this year. Okay. Let's see. Shelly, you're welcome. Joanne, I don't understand it in the beginning, and I keep putting thumbs up for the emojis. A lot of protein in my urine. Irma, you have a lot of protein in your urine. Okay. That is not an easy question to answer over a live. Thanks, Moon Goddess. Trying to transition to more plant-based foods. It feels so much better. Yeah. I mean, and the one thing I will tell you, and this will be my last little kind of soapbox. A lot of times I will have families that come in. Wife usually drags a husband in, or girlfriend and boyfriend, siblings. There's usually one person in the family that's really trying to get somebody else who's really anti getting on board. And they think that I'm going to be the one to like sell them on it. And, what I always say is you don't know how bad you're feeling because you're feeling it and you don't know anything different. And so it's that saying that I mentioned the other day, if you're in the ketchup bottle, you can't read the label. And so you have no perspective when you're in it. So you're eating all these fast foods or, whatever diet or, lifestyle aspects people are engaging in, that causes them to feel the way they're feeling. And you don't know how bad it is until you see something different. And so, I always kind of make a 5-day bargain, let's just try it, see, and then go back to normal and no harm, no foul. And so that tends to be one of those scenarios where people start to test and see, and then they start to notice, some of the things that I employ are going to be highly impactful. I know they will see a difference. And that's part of the magic of getting them on board. They see and feel that is more powerful than anybody, spewing their opinions at them with megaphones. So, a lot of times people are eating the standard American diet, having no sense that they feel so bad until they get moved into a different zone. And then they're like, whoa, holy cow, I'm feeling a lot better. And that's a really big factor. And that I think is the most rewarding aspect, is when people see the impact of the changes they're making and how they feel. And then it's the snowball, okay, what else can I do to feel even better? And wow, I'm feeling this and I didn't feel this before. And how can I address this? So I always find that to be hopeful. Okay, so it looks like our live chat spammer has refrained from messaging. So I appreciate that. I don't mind you viewing, and I love having people have different thoughts, but taking over a live chat is just it's not cool. Jenny, I can't imagine someone complaining about video format. You have worked above and beyond any of my expectations. Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, actually people do complain a lot. And it, I get really hot about it. I put my love into this work. It is not work. It is my life's passion, my life's mission. And so it's personal. And I know I am, sometimes I don't respond to everybody, and sometimes we have shipping delays, and I own the mistakes that we make. But yeah, not everybody is going to be happy. And so that is something that it's a harder pill for me to swallow, because I want to inherently have everybody like what I put out. But yeah, they don't. And they, some people feel really inclined to comment, which is totally their power. It's when the borderline, it's beyond rude. And, I know a lot of people thinking they just don't comment. The people who comment are just full on. But also I know too, working in this world, a lot of times I can see the pain in comments. And so, some I'll respond to because I know they're just nasty. Others I can hear the frustration, and that tends to be where I just give them a lot of love and grace, and I don't take it personally, because I know that somebody that's in a lot of pain, and they've come to my channel for a reason, and I want to help them and not shun them, shame them, or anything like that. but you know, there's a fine line too. I had somebody on Instagram call me out for not commenting fully to her in a direct message. And it was I don't even know what she was asking for. I think it was, she said, you know, you talked about some supplement or some gel. Well, I talk about a lot of gel, so I don't know what that was, but I had a sense because I knew she talked a little bit about her son having this one condition. So I made, you know, I said, oh, I think it might be this, and here's some videos to watch that go into further. And she got very upset. And then, you know, where I draw the line is when you start calling me out as a mom. So she was saying, how could you not respond? And you have a son and you're a bad mom. And, you know, it is what it is. I have hundreds of DMs and hundreds of emails come through every day. And, you know, literally thousands of comments on YouTube videos. So when you have 500, 600 videos on YouTube and people comment and watch every day, I have millions of people watching our videos like every day. And so we have, or not every day, but like on a monthly basis, anywhere from 1 to 3 million people watch my video content. And so it's hard. I can't be all things to all people, but yeah. So I try and take it less personally now, but I'm still, like Brian says, oh, don't take it so personally. I'm like, this is my life, my business. Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Okay, so Kat Aaron says, my mom has spinal stenosis and I have been taking her to Anuka chiropractic with great results. Yeah, I like gentle chiropractic, and there are a lot of really good chiropractors. I've been blessed in my life with great chiropractors. Many of them I don't like to do the x-rays unnecessarily. And many of them have been really great, like old school, like where they line you up and they kind of adjust by strings and you can kind of see like how, where your hips are if they're whacked out. Okay, so I see somebody's got a comment. Let me see what's going on here. Moon Goddess, okay. Blood clot found in 90-year-old. How much K2 daily and what do you recommend? So multifaceted knee, I can't make a recommendation like that because I don't know the details. That would be like I'd have to actually take them on as a patient. You know, with vitamin K and an existing blood clot, there's probably other medication. You don't want to thin their blood too much. So there's a lot of variables at play. It's hard to answer, but definitely do ask your clinician. So spinal stenosis pain relief. I love CBD. Oh gosh, I said it. C Bumblebee D. I like that topically. I like it internally. Inflammation reduction. With the stenosis, it depends on where it is in the spine. Some things you can work with a little bit easier than other areas. Sometimes it's physical therapy of strengthening up the muscle tone. So there's a little bit better alignment to reduce the inflammation of the nerves. I will say InflameX is probably my favorite product for any of that. The stenosis will cause inflammation. Then we get a lot of that nerve pain. So there's a link down below. FullScript is the best place to find all of those. So thanks, Joanne. Let's see. How about we all have mimosas on Friday morning? Huh, that's a great idea. Love that. So my favorite, my if I do bubbly, I love bellinis. I love peach and some champagne. It's the orange juice, vitamin O. I can't handle orange juice. I swear. And I grew up in Florida, and my great aunt would stay with my grandma. She was from Minnesota, and she'd come down for like 3 months. And Aunt Chloe would pick all the oranges and tangerines. We had tangelos, we had lemons, limes, grapefruit, pink and regular. We had tons of fruit trees, and Aunt Chloe would just go nuts. And that woman would set up juice. She'd have like gallons of juices and send them home with us. And I can't do orange juice. I still can't do it. I can do grapefruit. Pink grapefruit is totally fine. But yeah, oranges, can't do it. So peach is my thing. So yeah, peach bellinis are so yummy. Okay, so will InflameX help if you have high cholesterol? So I will say this, it will, yes, as far as the source of cholesterol, the free radical damage, it will help reduce the inflammation in the vascular channel. So it can. I would add probably red yeast rice to the mix, as well as a much greater fiber dense diet. Like on the cholesterol level, I love to make sure we're at 35, 40 grams of fiber. That's a lot. It's a lot. Inulin, check out inulin. That's really good for also helping enhance the fiber. Okay. So yeah, red grapefruit is good. Venice, I hope I'm saying your name right, Robinson. Sorry, what was the name of your video yesterday? Okay, so yesterday's video was, let me see. I listed it as, it is, let me see. I think it is listed as COVID and ear health. But if you go, I have a playlist. So if you go to my channel, hit playlists, and you'll see kind of at the top are my natural news live show. And it's the one from yesterday. So, okay. Christine, Hurricane Hannah busted my husband's beloved Rio red grapefruit tree. Oh, no. Dropped our tall fence on it, still cleaning up the aftermath. Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, Hurricane Hannah, I feel like I have not, and COVID has taken such a front seat in the news. And I tend to like, there's only like a little bit of news that I watch. I have not been tuned into it. I know I saw it starting to make the coastline hurricane season. Hurricanes. So gosh, I'm sorry to hear it. Hopefully it'll be okay. Hopefully it didn't die. But yeah, red grapefruit juice is my favorite. It was just different. No deaths. Okay, good. All right. So I'm glad to hear that. Okay. So just give me a thumbs up and please hit the share button. I appreciate the shares. Yesterday, we had a lot of traffic and eyeballs on the video yesterday, mainly because it's talking about ear health and possible transmission via the ear. So that was definitely a big topic. But today, definitely, I appreciate your you guys watching, sticking with me today, and tune in tomorrow. So I will see all of you tomorrow, bright and early, 9 a.m. Have a great day. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do. My handle's at Natural Health Resources. I'll post a whole bunch of things that I talk about today as well. So, and now I've got the swipe up. So all you have to do is swipe up and you go to the link or whatever thing I'm talking about, even studies. All right, friends, have a great day. See you later. Thanks, Pat. Bye, everybody.